Hi, did the one person that was on a minute ago disappear? Hi, Tamika.
Good evening, Miss Granville.
How are you?
I'm well.
That's good. There was someone else on earlier, and I think they clicked off, so I guess they'll come back. Did you all have the health meeting last week?
No, it's this Thursday.
Okay.
Okay, what's going on? Okay. My camera just shut up. Oh, there we go.
Did you look in on the event that they had at St. Gregory's yesterday?
Excuse me, what'd you say?
Did you look in on the event that they had at St. Gregory's yesterday?
No, I didn't. Let me get my Bluetooth. I can barely hear you. 1 minute.
Okay. Hi, Miss Tate Hall. How are you?
How are you, Miss Granville? Happy New Year.
Good. Happy New Year to you also.
Think I was in the
Tamika, your
wrong.
nails look nice.
Miss Gibbs.
Good evening, Miss Kate Hall. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Happy New Year.
I'm same to you. Happy New Year. I had to get my earpiece. I couldn't hear nobody. And no, Miss Granville, I didn't see the program at St. Gregory's yesterday. Was it good?
The sound quality was not good,
Hmm.
and it seemed like they were honoring, well, I won't say all the offices, all the offices in the 7-7, but quite a few.
Hmm.
A Reverend Monrose, I think his name is, who's worked with Eric for the last 2 terms, his last 2 terms as borough president. He's been like the liaison to the religious community. So he was actually the person that seemed to be conducting the service because they had it at St. Gregory's. And it seemed like it was go on and on and on. So after about an hour of it, I had to turn away because it's hard to follow something when you really can't hear it very well.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I had already sat through the band program for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So I was expecting, I wasn't expecting there to be so many different presentations. I think Assemblyman Zinnerman was there, and I know Hakeem was there, and I don't know who else was there. And Hakeem had also been at the Brooklyn Academy of Music earlier, because that one
Mm-hmm.
started at 10:30.
Mm.
So and I had had an appointment that I had forgotten about, so I actually missed the beginning of the speaker because she was the person that I had most wanted to hear, Dr. Amani Perry.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So she was the person I had most wanted to hear yesterday. And Nona Hendricks performed, and she must have been on there for a good 30 minutes or so.
Mm.
I guess she was supposed to be like a break in between because I thought she was
Okay.
going to do 1 or 2 songs and then it would be finished. But it was longer than that. So, and that was before the main speaker came.
That was
Yeah.
a long program.
Yeah. So, and I understand for those people who wanted to stay there, they also had a movie, but they usually have a movie on King's birthday anyway, a film of some sort. And I forgot what the
Uh-huh.
film was, but it was a
Right.
full day, I guess, for those people who wanted to stay
Wait.
around. I didn't feel comfortable taking a chance on actually attending in person. So I was happy that they had an option where you could watch it from home.
Okay. That's good. We had our 77 precinct council meeting last week, and the first say hour was all introductions. All our new council people, senators, Congress people. I'm like, okay, I understand they're making their rounds, but if
Mm-hmm.
you go through 3 of the meetings for the community board within about a 2-week process, it gets tiresome. I was like,
Yes.
okay.
And Thursday night, I joined late because I was going by the link that was sent to me first, and that link
Yeah.
didn't work. So I had to email, text Miss George. She told me, well, look on the calendar, use that email, use that
Yeah.
link. So I
I
was
always
late.
go I always try to go to the calendar, even if we get emails at the beginning of the week, I try to go to the calendar the day of because that's if anything has changed, it's usually on that link. I usually have no problem. I actually even save that link onto my calendar. So when I go to my calendar, that link is already there. I just go on straight from there
Okay.
because Mr. Certain was having problems as well. And he was texting me and I had sent him the link.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm learning. I have to do that in the future because I was so annoyed because I said, here I am on time. I rushed home and I'm missing the meeting. And by the time I got on, I think Brisport was finishing his remarks or something. Anyway, I missed Zinnerman altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So I was annoyed because I said, now, see, I know they probably had started with her. So I said, well, I missed her.
Yeah. if you this is January, so if you if you go to another meeting with her, I mean, because like I said, they've all been making their rounds at all of their meetings. But at the general meeting, they gave like general reports of what was going on and welcoming them and thanking the district for electing them. Um, their office hours, if they have an office, they're in transition, things of that nature. Can you move, please?
Mm-hmm.
But that's what they were doing most of the time on. That was like the first half an hour of the general board meeting.
Yeah, because when I tuned in, I think it was around like 6:30 or something by the time I got in, and they were still introducing themselves and still talking and whatnot. And Stephanie said she had to leave because she said she had a meeting at 7.
Yeah, they had another meeting at 7.
Yeah. And it's so funny because even when we had a physical newsletter, people still would prefer to come and make the announcements as opposed to giving us the information prior to the meeting.
Mm.
Yeah. Our Ms. Tate Hall, I don't know, not sure if you was on the general meeting last week. Um, but um with the fire, you know, at our I had already confirmed the fire department for tomorrow's health and human services meeting. But due to the fire in the Bronx, they're actually redirecting all resources and training up to the Bronx until the end of the month.
Okay.
I had made that announcement at last week's meeting, and we still have a presenter from Kings County, but it won't be. We would actually push back until February.
Okay.
We're here, so we
All
definitely
right.
will have. We have a presenter for Kings County, but the fire department is coming next month in February because of the fire. They're directing all resources and training there
Okay.
to serve that community.
Okay. All right. Because I've been having trouble getting hold of Dr. Paul, and
Yes.
I guess it's because of the increase or the outbreaks. So his calendar has been really, really busy because his receptionist reached out to me and she said, when he get a chance, he'll give you a call. When he get a chance, he'll give you a call. But Miss George said she was going to contact someone else. So being said, if Miss George can get this other person for me, can I get him scheduled for March?
Sure.
Good.
Sure. The more the merrier. I can't pull up top of my head right now the Dr. Michael something.
Hmm.
He's the infectious disease doctor for Kings County, and he'll be talking about COVID, all the variants, and things that are going on right now, and things that King County has to offer. And he's giving us a question and answer period if we so choose to ask him any questions. So
So
go
he will be February?
no, yes, he'll be tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
Thursday.
okay.
Sorry.
Tomorrow.
He'll be
Thursday.
Thursday. Yes.
Okay,
He'll be
okay,
Thursday's meeting. Yes.
Okay.
okay.
Yes. Like I said, his mind. I actually emailed the community coordinator for Kings County because they sent me the link as well, Ms. Jordan. You said the link that came to you via email. I got the link for Thursday's meeting today, and I just forwarded it to their Kings County community person. And I spoke with her last week to reschedule. I was trying to because she just said she needed somebody. She wanted. Of course, I had to send her the link because I booked this presenter late November for January. But I had told her, I was calling to just confirm with her that we're still on, and I sent her a link, and she was saying that they have a cab meeting with their staff on Thursday, but it ends at 6 o'clock. I said, well, that's perfect because somebody can come in about 6:30 after we finish our internal business and planning for the next couple of months, and that'd be perfect because they can come in at 6:30 and do their presentation. But I know he's an infectious disease doctor, and he'll be talking about COVID and all the variants and what's going on with that.
Okay, so we don't need Dr. Paul after all. Good.
I'm trying to think of his Michael
Good, good.
something, Dr. Michael something. But yes, I am on it. Thank you.
Okay.
And your
I'm
meeting
sorry,
will
Ms.
start at
Blanco.
your meeting
I
will
don't.
start at 6:15 or 6:30.
6:15. The meeting will start at
Okay.
6:15. The presenter will
Hmm.
be there at 6:30. We
Okay,
usually just, I had asked that he come at 6:30 because I don't know who was there from the committee last Thursday at the community board at the general meeting. I made the announcement that our FDNY presenter had been pushed back to February due to the current status of the fires in the Bronx. So I wanted to have that discussion, let everybody know what was going on, and who was coming tomorrow Thursday night, and what we have confirmed for at least we had that for February, and we had a few other people wanted to bring some people in uh, March, April, and May, as and possibly as June as well.
okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So
We're
you
working. We're
moving right
working.
along. You have quite an itinerary.
We
That's
try to keep it that way. Try to keep it everybody. If you have a position that you definitely want somebody to hear about, get the information out, bring it to the committee, bring as many people as we can, uh, and get the information
Was
out to the community.
Miss Prince in? I came in late on the general meeting. Was Miss what's her Princess James, was she in on the general meeting that day?
No, she wasn't there last Thursday.
Okay, I'm gonna reach out to her to make sure she and her son um be there on Thursday. Definitely. Because that was her main concern. She wanted her son to hear from an expert, of why not only adults should get the vaccination, but children.
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And it's
It's a
good
good
that
time.
someone could be there for that because a lot of people are unsure
Yeah,
as to how to proceed. So
Mm-hmm.
that's good for them to hear it from an authority.
yeah.
Yes.
Not their friend, not their neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
someone who does the work
Yeah.
every day in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And today they started accepting orders for the mail
Oh
order
Test
yeah,
kits.
kits.
Yeah, I got my
I received that.
confirmation. I was so happy
Mm-hmm.
because
I
Yeah,
got
I
mine.
let's hope
I
that the
did that
mail
as
people
well.
do what they're supposed to do because I'm hoping that they actually get to those of us that ask for them. Because
mm-hmm,
my thought is if we had a problem with the ballot situation, I'm hoping we don't have that same problem with the test kits.
I pray not, because those are something that we really need. And if you see how many people online,
Yes.
trying to get kits, trying to get boosters,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get just plain tests. And these people are sick and they're affecting other people. And that's why the thing went up so high.
Mm-hmm.
I went back emailing in my grocery list
Mm-hmm.
until
Okay.
we hit that curve. And I believe we hit the curve yesterday and we're on our way down. But still, you know, there's still a lot of people out there that just don't feel, oh, I will never get the COVID.
We were also talking on Thursday with Kid Hall. One of the community members had brought up one of the testing sites across here from Ebbets Field. Her and her
Mm-hmm,
family and a neighbor went and got tested the end of December,
mm-hmm.
and up until last Thursday, they didn't get no results yet. So be wary of the testing sites who say they're doing COVID testing and not issuing results. I'm sorry for my dog in the background. Excuse me, 1 minute.
Well, even around by me, and I'm close to Flatbush and Prospect. All right, I have what, one, two, three places by me. All right, I have Walgreen, something called Well Care, and my pharmacy. And the results, to getting your results back has been really, really stressful, and it's a long period of time because they have so many tests that they have to get back, and it depends on what type of test they have. All right, because I think they said within a week or two, the rapid results, they had no more. So they went back to the swabbing. All right, they had two kinds of swabbing of the nostrils. I never knew they had swabbing of the throat. I had no idea, but they do. And the blood tests. So things are like really backed up, really backed up. And I feel for people who have to depend on those tests to, go out to work.
Mm-hmm.
They can't go until they get the results back.
Mm-hmm. I have coworkers who were waiting up to day 8 before they got their results.
Mm,
And if you are there's a question in my agency whether you're going to get 5 days or 10 days.
mm,
So if they wait until day 8, it's like, okay, are you really trying to get as much work out of us as possible before you tell us that we might have COVID? I mean,
mm.
exactly how is this supposed to be working? Because for 3 people, 2 of them in my department, for them to have to wait until day 8 to get their results, I thought that was ridiculous.
It is.
And like you said, they can go around and give it to other people because they're not even sure that they have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's very scary because on my floor we only have one ladies' room. And somebody told me when I came in last week, they said, well, one of the ladies from your end of the floor tested positive. And I didn't know that because our managers are not telling us. If we don't speak to each other and say, gee, so-and-so tested positive, we don't know.
Mm,
And this lady should never have been moved to our end of the floor because she's a cancer survivor. So she would have been better off staying where she was.
mm, mm, mm.
Mm.
It's so wrong in so many ways. I don't know why people are so secretive about when somebody has it or not. They should be more forth out with the information.
Mhm.
This way, I mean, right now I have a contractor that's supposed to be helping me here in the house. He had an emergency where he had to go back to Bangladesh to take care of his ailing mother. He's back in the country, but he's got it, so he can't come. I don't want him anywhere in this house.
I know that's right.
So until he's clear, and I told him right up front. I said, forgive me, but get yourself tested and make sure that you're clear, along with your workers before you guys come back in this house.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's summertime when the windows are all open and air is blowing back and forth. No, this is winter.
Yes.
Everything's closed up. I don't want to, mm-mm.
Ms.
And I'm
Granville,
just,
there has been low. I don't think I came last month. Did you have a meeting last month?
yes.
How was attendance last month at last
Well, I
month's
think
meeting?
last month, if I remember correctly, I think we may have had about 8 people altogether, something like that. But I'm glad that you 2 ladies did show up. And I know that the board sent the notice out. So maybe people figured that because we weren't having a speaker, maybe they felt that it was a meeting that they could miss.
Mm,
Um, what I'm going to try to do is share an article that I have read recently about military service and and Social Security. And I'm not real good at this sharing business, so we'll see how this goes.
mm.
And to tell you the truth, I need to become better at it because my genealogy group we're meeting by Zoom these days. So it's important to know how to share things. So let me see how this goes. Bear with me. Is not wrong.
Ms. Granville, I see your screen. You're getting good at this.
Listen, this is my first time. Can you see it?
Yes.
Oh, you can?
Yes,
Oh, see, I'm impressed with
it's just,
myself.
okay, so you have it up to Google and now you're gonna find the article?
Now, do you see the article at all?
No, not yet.
John? Okay. Now, let me see. Thought I had it. Go back.
Okay, something just blinked.
Yeah.
You still
It's
don't
something
see it?
behind. It's
No.
something behind the Google screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's behind the Google screen?
There's something behind your Google screen.
Okay. And I'm sharing it too. Let's see. Can't move it. You still don't see it?
Oh, there we go.
Now,
There we
here we go.
go.
Now you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Military service and Social Security.
Okay. Now, I saw this the other day and I thought it would be of interest even if we didn't have any veterans who are attending the meeting. You know how you hear all these rumors about people getting additional money and people get
Mm-hmm.
very excited about that? Well,
Mm-hmm.
it says here that it's not necessarily true that you're going to get extra money. While you're in military service, you pay Social Security taxes just as civilian employees do. You currently pay a 6.2% Social Security tax on up to $147,000 of your earnings. The Medicare tax rate is 1.45 on all wages. High income earners pay an additional 0.9% on earnings above certain amounts. Now it says here that to qualify for benefits, you must earn credits by working and paying Social Security taxes. The number of credits you need to qualify depends on your age and the type of benefit for each year eligible. In 2022, you received 1 credit for each $1,510 of earnings, up to the maximum of 4 credits per year. The amount of earnings needed to get credit for your work goes up each year. No one needs more than 10 years of work or 40 credits. Your Social Security benefit depends on your earnings averaged over your working lifetime. Generally, the higher your earnings, the higher your benefit. Under certain circumstances, special earnings can be credited to your military pay record for Social Security purposes. The extra earnings are for periods of active duty. Now, let me see if I can move this over a little bit so I can see it. Let's see. No. So this is blocking this. Hold on a second. Anyway, if you served in the military after 1956, you pay Social Security taxes on those earnings. Since 1988, an active duty service in the Armed Forces Reserves, such as weekend drills, has also been covered by us. Under certain circumstances, special extra earnings for periods of active duty from 1957 through 2001 can also be credited to your Social Security earnings record. From 1957 through 1967, we will add the extra credits to your record when you apply for Social Security benefits. From 1968 through 2001, you don't need to do anything to receive these extra credits. The credits will automatically add it to your record. After 2001, there are no special extra earning credits for military service. The information that follows explains how you can get credit for special extra earnings. This applies only to active duty military service earnings from 1957 through 2001. From 1957 through 1977, you're credited with $300 in additional earnings for each calendar quarter in which you received active duty basic pay. From 1978 through 2001, for every 300 in active duty basic pay, you're credited with an additional 100 in earnings up to a maximum of $1,200 a year. If you enlisted after September 7th, 1980 and didn't complete at least 24 months of active duty or your full tour, you may not be able to receive the additional earnings. Check with us for details. If you served in the military from 1940 through 1956, you didn't pay Social Security taxes, but we gave you special credit for some of your service. Okay, and then it goes on to tell you about what your benefits will be. Now, the nice thing about this is that if you sign up for Social Security, they send you periodically these updates. So what you can do is you have it sent to your email, and then you click on the ones that you're interested in, and it blows up. It expands out to give you the details. But what I'm going to try to do is contact the office tomorrow and see if they can send it to everybody in our Google group for veterans, so you'll have the information. And some of us, like myself, need to bone up on what Medicare actually entails, because I'm almost at that stage and I really don't know that much about it.
Okay, well, I just received information on my Social Security, and they're going up on us as a regular
COLA, cost of living increase,
mm-hmm,
COLA increase.
15%. So this extra credit thing, if you've done this at those certain amount of times, but also you're back in the regular work field, that's additional money towards your Social Security.
From what I'm understanding, yes.
Okay.
But if you're like me, once you get the item in your email and you can print it out,
Mm-hmm.
if I had any questions when I went to Social Security or when I had them on the phone, I would be quoting this particular article because this is something that Social Security sent me.
Okay.
So it's not like it's something that somebody told you they saw on the internet. They actually sent this to me recently.
Okay. Now I see something here that's been really intriguing me. Usually on the TV, you'll see Wounded Warrior, you'll see PVA, you'll see, I noticed it when you was strolling back and forth, a couple of these, there they are, like TRICARE, all these different organizations. Now I'm seeing which one is really, that's funny, I don't see PVA here. But I see Wounded Warriors.
Okay.
So I'm wondering, these other um, um, charities, are they legit or they only pertain to people in certain states? Because I noticed certain things here where it says, all you see is VA, VA, VA.
I see that. And this
But
Champ VA, I've never heard of that, so I'm not sure what that is.
right, and TRICARE, I never heard of that.
Okay.
Right. But Wounded Warriors, I'm, very much familiar with them.
Okay.
But I've noticed
Well,
on,
go ahead. I'm reading the TRICARE and its CHAMP VA is another program on some kind of health insurance. Because it says if you have healthcare insurance from the Department of Veteran Affairs, or under the TRICARE or CHAMP VA program, those kind of like it's reading to me as it's another kind of form of healthcare for veterans. Whereas Wounded Warrior is like you said, is a nonprofit organization. That's how I'm reading it.
Okay.
right, because I'm reading up here, if you develop a disability while on active duty, active military service, on or after October 1st, 01, then you would go to Wounded Warriors. But like I said, on the television, they have something called PVA. And then they have, oh gosh, I had wrote them down, and I don't know where I was in here cleaning out paperwork, trying to get my taxes together. There's quite a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to know from that gentleman that day that was talking to us, which ones are legit and which ones aren't, which
Okay.
ones actually help a veteran,
Mm-hmm.
because right there is saying if you were had a disability, but
Up
what
to a
do they
certain time.
consider? Yeah, a disability. Is it only, you've lost limbs, or you've lost, sight,
Mm-hmm.
speech, you're a burn victim, you know,
Those are good questions to ask for the future, for future guests, because the last time we spoke with the gentleman, we didn't have any real documents to ask him about. He basically was just telling us things in general.
mm-hmm.
So those are good questions. And I think also I will pass this along to Gail, because I know she probably has some seniors in her group. And if they're not veterans themselves, they may be related to people who are veterans. And this might be useful information for them, because they may not know that they could actually get information directly from Social Security.
Because I had no idea that Social Security would cover the vets. I thought the vets had their own system and we had our system, but no, we all fall under the same thing. It's just that they get a little bit more or less, depending if after they come out of active duty, if they're,
Mm-hmm.
in a regular, 9 to 5 or whatever shift job.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I'm happy that I was able to work the share well enough to share it with you ladies, because I wasn't sure when I started pushing buttons exactly what was going to happen.
Well,
Stop
it
laughing,
worked out.
Tamika.
It
Because you're
worked.
always doubting yourself as Granville, and I know you're the kind of woman that's determined that if you just press enough buttons, look what you can do. Share.
Listen, considering the fact that I may be called upon to do this on Saturday, I need to practice.
See?
And you
Yeah.
And
did
now you
well.
know it.
You did very well.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, ladies.
You're welcome. Thank
Now,
you for sharing with us.
now I just have to get into what I need to do to get things sent out to the Google group for each committee, and I'll be fine.
Okay.
So I listen. I already have my must learn how to list
Mm,
coming together for 2022.
See? And you can check one off. You know
you
how to
see,
share your screen.
definitely.
Because you know what? It's so funny, because you read these different things, and as you read things, you go through your mental Rolodex and you say, now, what group am I involved in that needs this information? But if you don't know how to relay the information, it doesn't do much good. And I always think that information comes to you for a reason, and it's
It
not
does.
anything that you should be sitting on.
Hmm.
So this works out well for me, because I like this.
It seems hard at first, and once you get the hang of it, it's like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. But I just find that technology sometimes takes a degree of patience that I haven't quite developed yet. Tamika, you know me.
Yes.
Yes, because you've
Yes.
been on the other end of the phone when I said, now Tamika, how does this go?
Well,
It's
Miss Granville, you're not in it by yourself. Because I mean, before I left the the union, we had I really and truly didn't have to use the computer that much. And my last year there, we had to start putting everything on the computer and finding everything on the computer. And my first month, I was left there with headaches. I refused to buy a computer here at home which I finally did, and still have not gotten the courage to set that thing up, but I will.
Well,
You
it's
will.
a
You will.
means of inclusion and it can be a means of exclusion. And in this day and time, what you do not know will be used against you. So it's much better to be in a position to be included.
That's so true.
Because you know, for a while there, these employers took advantage of the fact that a lot of us didn't have computer access. And on my job, they used to look at you and ask you for a resume, and they know 9 times out of 10, folks didn't have one. Or if they had
Mm,
one, it wasn't a current one. And if you didn't have a computer, access to a computer, you had a problem because that meant that you had to get somebody to update it for you.
mm-hmm.
So they knew what they were doing when they'd ask you for these things because they would say to themselves, well, we know that at least half of these folks not going to have one. And you might be more qualified than the family members that they were going to promote. But if you didn't have a resume, you were knocked out on a technicality.
That's so true.
And I don't know about you all, but I don't like for people to be excluding me on no technicality. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Because you know, we got some folks who barely can write a simple sentence, and you want to exclude me? I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
Exactly.
And I'm happy to see that we're getting some internet, some progress with having the internet put into the housing developments because there was no way in the world that these children were going to be 2 years behind or less than 2 years behind without access to the internet.
This is what upset me today with Adams and what's his name? Briggs or Banks, whatever his name
Yeah,
is.
Thanks.
Banks, the new chancellor.
The new
Because
chancellor.
yeah, a lot of children still have not returned full time into school.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these children still live in our areas. Okay.
Yes.
And when he says he would not make remote learning, and I said, oh, no, no, no. His phone was blowing up from all the parents possible. Because I mean, a lot of the parents and a lot of the kids don't feel comfortable going into the schools. So
I'm
now that
surprised.
they have, yeah, access to internet, it's making things so much better for the kids. But
Yes.
when they started back to school and there was no remote learning, the parents turned to homeschooling
Mm-hmm.
because they were just, why should I put my child in that,
Not even just your
situ-
child, your entire household, because
mm,
a lot of these
mm,
households are multi-generational. So
Yes.
you send a
mhm,
kid to
mhm,
school and grandma, grandpa gets sick, or auntie, uncle, and you just can't afford that. So it's like, and then if they get to the school, who's to say the teacher's there? Because maybe teacher quit from somebody else. I
Mm-hmm.
know
right.
I have several friends and family who work in the Department of Education, and when they went to school after Thanksgiving, when they started doing the mandatory testing all over again, so that was
Mhm,
basically the problem. They stopped testing
mhm,
last year in September when kids went to school. They were doing the testing from September till maybe the end of October, testing
yeah,
constantly. Then they just stopped,
yes. And all
and
of
then
a sudden,
the
yes.
kids came back from school from Thanksgiving, and everybody's poking around sick, and now the new variant is around, and they're like, oh, let's see what's going on. This Omicron, and this they tested it. They bring the testing back in the schools. Everybody
Mm,
have it. That was the problem. They stopped the testing. The what was his name? De Blasio had set up him. They had set up the plan for the school systems, but it
mhm,
was they only initiated it at the beginning of the school year. Once they got the numbers down to keep them open, it kind of went to the wayside,
mhm,
and they never came up with testing. And when they went back to school after the holiday break, I have my sister-in-law works in the school. She went to school that Monday when they started. She got tested that Monday. She got her results the 2 weeks later.
Two
mm,
weeks later.
2 weeks later.
mm, mm, mm,
So I
mm.
knew it was just a matter of time where he was going to have to implement sort of option because you had no staff. The staff that finally did get their results tested positive. They weren't there. I mean, they weren't in the
Mm-hmm.
building. There's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough substitutes in the system because the substitutes are actually already working the full time job and people who retired altogether. So you have
Right.
a flood of teachers who just retired. Like so they put
Mm-hmm.
the ready made subs in those positions. There's no backup subs.
Right.
If your
Nope.
backup subs are subbing full time, who are you gonna get to work?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a rolling effect.
Yeah, because we had a teacher shortage last year. So
Hmm.
we knew it was only going to get worse.
Yeah, and that was just from the mad exodus of people who just retired. Like, oh, I'm not doing this no more. I done did my time. I'm gone.
Mm-hmm. Look, I was smiling at the article in the paper the other day where they were asking some of the transit people to come back to work. And I'm looking at the article because I'm saying to myself, well, Lord, management finally has reckoned with the fact that they can't drive a train or a bus. So they need these folks, but they should have treated them better when they were there.
Yes, they should have. You know, and
That's
that
a
goes
hard
to
job
also.
dealing with the public. I wouldn't want that job.
Mm-mm. But it's also dealing with the doctors and nurses. I mean, because yesterday they interviewed quite a few doctors and nurses, and they have the COVID, but the hospitals are mandating them to come back out to work. So
That's
why would I
crazy.
want a COVID sick doctor or
Uh-huh.
nurse, over me, and I'm in there for something else?
But I'll leave there. I'm gonna leave there with COVID because
Mm,
You know what?
career
I just
doctors.
read the other day about, I think it was Brooklyn Hospital, where they had two nurses who had to handle 36 patients. And I thought
mm-hmm.
that was crazy.
Yep.
And I remember my mom working at Wyckoff Heights, and she never had enough help from 11 to 7. So I
Mm.
can't imagine two nurses trying to run back and forth to take care of 36 patients on a given shift.
That was the city's main problem through all their agencies. I've had plenty of correction officer friends who retired and police officers that have retired. Uh, close people to me retired in the past 2 years, and they retired, and corrections has like, oh, we're gonna pay you a $5,000 back bonus. We don't need to go back to basic training. We just we need the bodies here because the officers that are there who only have like maybe 5 or 10 years in the job, quitting, leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends who work 30-hour shifts at Rikers Island.
Mm.
One time, no meal, literally have to take turns to go to the bathroom because there's no
Mm-hmm.
officer in the jails, in the precincts. It's ridiculous because
I mean, have you
nobody, the city was not prepared for the mass exodus of all the staff with all these men. It's like, oh, I don't need this. Like I already did 25, 30 years. I'm gone, and
I
Yeah.
mean,
they retire.
have you seen the report on Channel 4? Because they've been doing Channel 4 and Channel 11 have been doing an extensive report, particularly Channel 11, right, on what's going on over there in Rikers Island. I mean, come on.
Hmm. It was so bad. Beginning of the summer, they was literally transferring people from Rikers Island to state custody. That's unheard of because the people, the jail's a big business. If they're not in the custody of the city of New York, from the Department of Corrections, they're not getting that money. They're transferring them over to the state Department of
Mm-hmm.
Corrections and Supervision. They're getting paid for them now, and that's
Mm.
they stopped visitations again. They stopped transportation, bringing people back and forth to court. They stopped all of that
Mm.
because
Mm.
Mm.
they just don't have nobody. And the people that they have there working 30 hours, that's way illegal. Like
That is
Yes.
very illegal.
that's so far beyond illegal. Like
Mm.
there's nothing. That's why they were literally asking people to go back. I had a few people like, no, if I go back now, I'm retired. If I go back now, something would happen and then I lose my pension. No, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm. They're
Okay.
like, no,
All
I'm
right.
okay.
You answered my question. Something
Yeah,
happened.
something would happen And
Something.
that was, yeah, something would happen because there's no staff. So you have all the inmates that's going to try you, and you trying to
Mhm.
protect yourself and save yourself, and they bring up on charges like, oh, now I came back to help you, but now I don't even have my pension. No.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing this poor correction officer, and it was a female, and she was small, but she was trying to save an inmate from being jumped.
Hmm.
And the only thing she had to use, because she refused to pull her gun, was a can of mace.
They don't have.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have guns in the jails. They have to lock their guns up in the auxiliary in the artillery room. They don't have
Oh,
no guns in the
So
jails.
the
well,
In the
prisoners might have weapons and they don't have any?
No, they have a stick and mace. That's all.
because
They
one
have
of
a.
the inmates had a knife. And let me
Uh-huh.
tell you, girlfriend was using that spray like I mean, she was using that spray like when the beginning of COVID, I
Mm-hmm.
was spraying everything, every package,
Mm-hmm.
everything.
And that's simply just to keep them away from you because they know they have weapons on them. But if I keep
Mm,
you away from my body, you can't you can't hurt me with that weapon you have. They don't have no weapons. When they have a situation in the jails, they have to call their I can't remember the exact name of they call it, but it's like a attack team. Like they have
Okay.
this, they don't have any guns either. They just come with the batons and the shields and the helmets.
Well, I
They
have
come
news for you.
to
They
like
had
break
nobody.
us.
She had nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. It was
Hmm.
only her, the inmate that she was trying to save, and that can of either Lysol or pepper spray. I have no idea, but it was a big can.
Lord.
Yeah.
But she held them off.
Mm.
She actually did her job and
And this
more.
happened recently?
Yes,
My Lord.
it
Hmm.
happened just the end of December,
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
and they were able to film it
Lord.
or was able to get the film because everything was happening right there in the cell.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah. And
Whew.
that's all over. Like that's all over with all the Department of Corrections facilities. Like I have
Hmm.
she's like my sister. She retired in last June, and because she worked at Queens Central Booking, they actually have the cops are there as well as the correction officers are there. There is no in the Brooklyn Central Booking. They don't have any cops. They a bus brings them and they transport them and literally give them to the correction officer. Give them to their get that's then their responsibility. But they were literally because they weren't moving nobody to Rikers, so they literally had a holding facility way longer than way after arraignment that the jails were full of people because they
Mm.
didn't have a transportation to take them to Rikers Island. So
Lord.
literally the after they come from Central Book and they come from arraignment, they would normally transport them to the next transport. They weren't going nowhere, so that literally became a jail.
Mm.
It's
So where
bad.
were
It's
they
really
keeping
really
them?
bad. Huh?
Tamika, where were they keeping them?
In the holding cells,
And yeah,
in the holding cells in Central Booking in Queens and in Brooklyn. But
yeah.
normally, it's just usually you're there 24 hours, 48 at the most, depending on what time of day you got arrested and you got to the Central Booking by the time you get arraigned. Because it's basically if everything was like a well-oiled machine, if you get arrested today, you have to be arraigned within the next 12 to 24 hours. But Queens is really quick; they're really efficient. You see a judge, you either make bail if they give you bail, post the bail, and you leave, or your next transport, the paperwork is done. You're the next transport to Rikers Island while you're waiting for arraignment or your court date or whatever situation may be. They couldn't do that because they had nobody to transport from Rikers Island to come get the people in Central Booking.
My Lord.
They had yeah, it was like a Impala. They had all the officers that they had to work in the jails in Rikers Island because there was nobody else there. People there for three days, no meal.
Lord. Ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you all have unpacked a lot for me to think about. Cause see, I don't know anybody that works with corrections, so I didn't know all that stuff was going on.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I am in favor of ending early unless you all have something else that you'd like to talk about.
I second that motion.
What'd you say?
I
She
second
said
that motion.
motion.
Okay.
And
State Hall, is good to hear you. And it's good when we do get a chance to talk. We didn't have an agenda, but it was good, the discussion that we did have. And Tamika, I'm going to try to make sure that I'm present for your meeting on Thursday. And I
Thank you.
wanted to ask you, because I understand that the Assemblywoman mentioned emergency preparedness. I wasn't there to hear it,
Yes.
but I wanted to let you know that we do have a CERT team for Community Board 8.
Oh,
The state
didn't know
people
that.
always forget that we do have a local trained group of people to respond to emergencies. The feeling is that the local people would know the neighborhood better than other people would.
Yeah.
So about maybe 6-7 years ago, a bunch of us actually went to training at Clara Barton for about 14 weeks, I think it was. And they taught you how to respond to different situations in your community, like if you have floods, if you have a disorderly mob or something like that. And basically, we were given ID cards, and the ID cards were issued by the Office of Emergency Management. So I have not been an active member, but I think it's something that Quasi needs to talk about at our board meetings, because some people who may not want to be involved in our committees may want to be involved with the group that responds to emergency situations. Because my feeling is that we have a lot of seniors in our area. And the thought is that if you live here, you would know who might need help, special assistance in the event of an emergency. So I think sometimes when the state people mention it, they either don't know that we have a group already, or maybe they think that particular group is not sufficient. And just so that you know, when I took the training at OEM, which is over by the Brooklyn Bridge, we found out that they also have private companies who have CERT teams as well. Because there's some private companies that operate around the clock. So they need to have somebody there who can monitor certain things, like if there's a fire or something, they need somebody on the premises when most of the people are at home. So they try to make sure that they have people trained for that as well. So it's something I think that Quasi needs to talk about a little bit more, because he is the head of that particular group. And they're trained to use the shortwave radios and what have you in the event of emergency. And you and I, we all know now that very seldom do you see any building that has the sign fallout shelter.
yes.
So we need to know what to do in the event of an emergency. And when I think about those people in the Bronx, they, from what I understand, had lived in their apartments, some of them since the 70s. But who is to say that they were ever really trained as to what to do in the event of a fire?
They weren't. They couldn't have been. They couldn't have been, because that many people would not have died. Even though there was a thick smoke, they would have known to crawl on their bellies down the steps,
Yes.
whatever way they, and the thing that hurts the most, I used to live in a project in Manhattan. And I remembered on those doors that are supposed to stay locked, they used to have on both sides of the door what you were to do in case of fire or heavy smoke. And I know when the drugs really were, prevalent in my projects, the the drug dealers would burn the signs. And they were made out of metal, but they somehow the paint that they used was flammable.
Lord.
So they would sit there and burn the signs. And I remember saying to one of them one day, I said, you know what? You just killed your mother and all your sisters and brothers by burning this sign. Because I was so fed up, you know, and he's that come to find out the creature didn't even know how to read.
And you know, I've never traveled to Africa, so I'm not sure what language they normally speak in Gambia. But I thought about the fact that it also could be if you have up certain information and it's not in a language that people understand, it's the same as not giving them any information.
So true, so true, right? But one thing I can tell you I like about um, most foreigners, because they're so bent on their children learning English and getting a good American education, whenever they see something that they don't know, they usually question the children, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What is this? And for the fact that not one of them mentioned those signs being on those doors, that's when I knew not only the kids didn't fail them, the federal government failed them because they should have had these signs on the doors. Those doors should have been to the point that nobody was able to hold those doors open. Right now, I can understand the family running out of the apartment and leaving their door open.
Mm-hmm.
The hallway door, those exit doors were open as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because it
that's one of the
sounds as
main.
though from what we're hearing, they tried to say, oh, the building had heat, but why would anybody have a heater on 24/7 if the
No,
heat was adequate?
they
Number
had no
one,
heat. No, they had no heat.
okay. And then number two, the doors had not been properly inspected. And from what I'm understanding, the 3 or 4 companies that bought that particular building, it was a group of buildings that they purchased. You all didn't inspect any of those things to make sure that the doors actually closed the way they were supposed to.
They didn't
Mhm.
inspect it
You know,
because they
everybody's
brother
in
told
such
to
a
the
hurry to
cousin
make
to the
money.
cousin. It never left. It never left the people who owned it originally. It just changed the LLC name.
Okay.
That was all. That's what they
Okay.
do.
Mhm.
I do a lot of
Mhm.
inspections in the Bronx, and they change management frequently and owners frequently, but they never
Mhm.
really change.
Mm.
And
Well,
that's one of the reasons. Go
I
ahead.
guess with the lawsuits, we'll find out what's what.
Oh yes.
Cause
Let's see.
I'm saying to myself, you know, I couldn't be sure because I've never visited the building. I don't know anybody that lives there, but I'm saying to myself, did they even have signage up that the people could understand? And if you never had a fire drill and you've been there for the last 20, 25 years, how would you know? I mean, like you said, if the children had been taught, they would have passed it to the parents. And that's why
Mhm.
I think it was Quasi and Desmond who was saying it's important that that they be taught these things in school.
Mhm.
I have a bigger question, and that's what I
Mm-hmm.
was asked. I spoke to Mr. Mensa after the meeting. Everybody's forgetting that's a HUD building. That's a federal government building.
Mhm.
They receive all federal funding. What happened to the new HUD person that we had in office, that was put in office, um, a special task force person who was supposed to be overseeing all of the public funded buildings, and the projects and everything outside of the project on these little issues. We were all concerned about heat and boilers and elevators, but nobody's concerned about the safety of the buildings. What happened to that person that was holding that chair? They made a whole person. The lady went and spent the night in a few projects in New York City. So,
She
I
sure
don't know.
did.
What happened to her? Where's she at?
Well,
You know
since you,
something? I never heard it from the time she spent in the buildings and she went back to report everything. That was the last I've ever heard of her.
But again, these are still federally funded buildings. Just
yes,
like
they
they
are.
send out they send out federal funds, they audit and they do inspections outside of the city and the state. These buildings are getting money from the federal government. Don't you want to make sure your investment is going properly? Like you're paying 90% of this building's rent. You don't want to check on
Mhm.
this just so you can say this is not done, that's not done. And maybe you can withhold rent or withhold the voucher that's going to this building until the landlord makes these changes.
You know, that's a good point because I read that out of the 120 families in that building, 90 of them were on Section 8. And Chuck
Mhm.
Schumer was real quick to say, oh, well, they can take the Section 8 and get another apartment. No, they can't because when
No,
you
you
have
can't.
large families, you can't get large apartments in this city very easily.
That's
The
it.
man had a duplex. That's the only place in New York. And like I said, I do a lot of inspections in the Bronx. The Bronx is the only borough at this point in like today in 2022 that has these large apartments that hold a family of 6 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of the previous apartments that were in Brooklyn, they chopped them all up.
That's
Mm-hmm.
true.
The Bronx,
That's so
this
true.
man, this apartment's a duplex. He had the second and the third floor apartment,
Yes, I
Mm.
know. Because when
two
they said
floors
duplex, I was surprised.
in the middle of a building. You would
Mhm.
the Bronx has apartments that are so beautiful because most of them are pre-war buildings. They're huge, and that's where they get the money to. They get all these vouchers to go up there. But nobody's the people who are issuing the vouchers are not following up. They're not doing simple inspection.
Mm.
Simple inspection that would just save a life or hey, that's all.
Mm-mm. And you know, it's so funny because when my grandparents came here from North Carolina, I remember my mother telling me how hard it was for them to find an apartment. And there were 5 children. There were 3 boys and 2 girls and the 2 parents. And for a
That,
while, they ended up having to take a basement apartment because they couldn't get anything else.
Same thing on my
and
in-laws. They came
and
from
the,
North Carolina, had 5 kids, three boys and 2 girls in their first apartment with my father-in-law sent from my mother-in-law from North Carolina. They lived in
mhm.
three-boy project. It was her and 7 people in the 3-bedroom apartment. They stayed, and my father-in-law was an electrician, retired local number 3 electrician,
Mm.
retired and bought a house for the brownstone. And when he set up for his brother, and his brother lived in the brownstone with his wife up here. But that's just yeah, they couldn't afford it.
Mm-hmm. And you said it was 7 people and how many bedrooms?
Three
3.
bedrooms.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like you said, in the Bronx, and particularly on Grand Concourse, some of the
Huge apartment.
biggest apartments I have ever seen in my
You will
life.
you will ever see in New York City. Ever.
Mm.
Ever.
Sunken living rooms, and all the bedrooms are off the sunken living room. You have about
Okay.
nothing less than 3 bedrooms.
All
Mm-hmm.
along Moshulu Parkway. I do
Yes,
inspections up there all the
yes,
time. Beautiful
yes,
apartment. All
yes.
facing the park.
Well, ladies, thank you very much for enlightening me because I'm told that when I was small, we lived in the Bronx, but I don't remember it. But I thank you because, see, it's funny how your elected officials know part of the story, but not the whole story.
No,
But
thank
when
you.
Mm-hmm.
he said that, I said to myself, it's not that easy for people with large families in this city to find an apartment of an adequate size.
Because I'm quite sure if there was, they wouldn't be there with hot space heaters all over the place trying
Mm-hmm.
to keep warm.
Nope, nope.
Well, ladies, hopefully next month I will have someone who can either answer questions or give us a presentation that has to do directly with veterans. And I thank you all for coming. And at this point, I'm going to close the meeting.
Good night, ladies. Hope to see
Okay,
everybody on
good night,
Thursday.
and thank you so much.
And thank
Not a
you.
problem. Good night, ladies.
Good
Good
night.
night.